One last reminder, we're going dark next week as we head out to Vegas for the big Marijuana Business Conference, and we'll be back publishing the daily on Monday, December 16th. We will have a regular episode of our weekly show, Marijuana Today, up though, so there's that. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by MJ Today Media, publishers of this show, our weekly title Marijuana Today, and the Green Rush and Weed Wonks podcasts. If you've been thinking about getting into podcast marketing, you need to email me at shay@mjtodaymedia.com to learn more about how we can help, because we've got the biggest audience in the industry. We've been podcasting now for more than 5 years and have been around legal cannabis for more than 20, so we've got good roots. One more time, just email me at shay@mjtodaymedia.com, with Shay spelled S-H-E-A. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, December 6th, 2019, and you're tuned in to episode 853 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Maine leads off today's headlines as yesterday the state's Office of Marijuana Policy announced that the window to apply for adult use dispensary licenses is now open, more than 3 years after voters first approved adult use legalization via ballot measure. The state is also taking applications for cannabis processors and growers. Maine is currently on track to have legal dispensaries up and running by March or April. Super news all around here. To Chicago for our second top headline, where yesterday Mayor Lori Lightfoot and interim police superintendent Charlie Beck issued a statement saying that Chicago police would not be issuing tickets to people seen smoking marijuana in their backyards or on balconies, following the publication of a story in the Chicago Sun-Times pointing out that people are at risk of being ticketed if they're consuming cannabis in a spot viewable by the public. Left unclear is how police will treat people using marijuana on their front porch, which I think is an important thing to know. There's a lot of backstory here with historic distrust in the community over police using small infractions to catch people up in the criminal justice system, so maybe not a bad one to read in full today. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Kyle Yeager over at Marijuana Moment grabs today's final top spot with a story about a new series of ads just produced and published by a political action committee supporting the presidential candidacy of New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. As Kyle has it, the 3 ads specifically point out the support that Senator Booker has shown to legalizing marijuana, comparing Booker's stance with misogynist dinosaur Joe Biden, who's made marijuana headlines in recent weeks for saying that he was against the legalization because cannabis is a gateway drug. This is a top headline today because it nicely shows how legitimate marijuana legalization has become in mainstream Democratic politics. Pop over to Kyle's piece for more here and to see the videos yourself. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, MJ Today Media, publishers of this show, our weekly title Marijuana Today, and the Green Rush and Weed Wonks podcasts. As you lock down and dial in your 2020 marketing budget, if you're not spending some of it with us, you really need to. Podcast marketing is a hugely effective way to reach new customers, and we have the biggest audience in legal marijuana by a very large margin, with more than 30,000 listeners making up Marijuana Nation. Our audience is mostly made up of people working in the industry or who are transitioning in, and is chock-a-block full of decision makers. So whatever your legal cannabis focus is, we can deliver. And when it comes to building brand and positive recognition in legal cannabis, I dare say there's no better way to do it than by sponsoring our shows. We exist because our sponsors help us pay the bills, which our audience appreciates. They like our podcasts. Get in on that today by emailing me at shay@mjtodaymedia.com. We now have 4 shows in our growing legal marijuana podcast network, so we can work with budgets of all sizes, from the smallest of startups through the biggest of billion-dollar cannabis brands. One more time, that's shay@mjtodaymedia.com, with Shay spelled S-H-E-A. All right, time for the Blitz. Harrison Jordan over at Leafly is reporting that Canadian licensed producer Hexo was seeing big consumer interest in a new line of ultra-affordable cannabis it's selling for around $5 a gram. I've talked about this storyline before. Hexo's original stash sells in 1-ounce packages, retailing between $125 and $140, taxes included. This is what the future of marijuana flower looks like. Don't ignore this general storyline. Keeping our sights up in Canada, we have Marijuana Business Daily detailing the measures that a number of Canadian provinces have taken this week to disrupt or block the sale of marijuana vaporizers. Newfoundland and Labrador imposed an outright ban on vaporizers, while British Columbia raised the sales tax on vaporizers to 20%, including on the sale of vaporizers that work with flower. The provinces said that the ongoing vape crisis was the main driver behind the new policies, though industry experts generally say banning vapes actually harms consumer health by driving buyers to the illicit market. There's also the irony that, for the most part, the vape health crisis has been caused by vitamin E acetate, an illegal additive favored especially by non-licensed producers. Another Marijuana Business Daily story up, this time looking at the legal marijuana industry in Colorado and how it's been affected since a substantial change in state law earlier this year, opening up outside investment, went into effect. On one hand, the new change has been good for big business, as it's allowed, for instance, Colorado-based Medicine Man to take on a large swath of investment, which it then used to go on an acquisition tear that we covered all along the way. Another big deal facilitated by the change is the $140 million acquisition of Colorado dispensary chain Green Solutions by New York-based Columbia Cares. But the flip side of all that is the lowering of opportunities for smaller industry players, especially non-white entrepreneurs without the financial backing of larger moneyed interests. Colorado was one of the first states to legalize marijuana, but it did so without any kind of social equity program or structure, which we're now seeing the consequences of. Give this one a read. Just a couple of months after opening its doors, Los Angeles' first cannabis cafe is changing its name from the Lowell Herb Cafe to just the California Cafe, saying they wanted to expand their cannabis options beyond the products of the Lowell Herb Company, with which it was partnering up with. David Elias, CEO of the Lowell Herb Company, said that he wished the cafe the best and that his company was focusing its energy on a current expansion into the Nevada market. A court in Pennsylvania just issued a favorable ruling for medical marijuana patients, clearing the way for registered medical marijuana patient and healthcare worker Pamela Palmater to sue her former employer, Commonwealth Health Systems, for firing her after she failed a drug test for THC. Ms. Palmater uses medical cannabis to treat migraines and chronic pain and was forced to take a drug test after her company was taken over by Commonwealth. This is good news not only for Ms. Palmater, but also for every other medical marijuana patient in Pennsylvania who now has this legal recourse available to use if they should ever be dismissed for being a patient. With a story that is right along the same lines as our previous headline, we have news of a former warehouse worker in New Jersey who was fired by Amazon after he failed a drug test. The unnamed worker detailed in the story is suing Amazon for his dismissal, which included a subsequent blacklisting from working at Whole Foods and every other Amazon-owned company. Given how large and ubiquitous Amazon is increasingly becoming in American business, particularly in warehouse work, a company-wide blacklisting for using medical marijuana, which the worker used to treat panic attacks, is disgustingly unjust and should not be allowed by law. Read this story. And finally for today, we have Marijuana Moments newest writer Lindsay Bartlett helpfully reassuring the world that Willie Nelson does indeed still get high. Willie's been in the headlines in recent days after news broke that he had stopped smoking marijuana due to health reasons. The key word there is smoke, because as Lindsay is reporting, Willie still vapes and eats edibles and still gets plenty high, as it should be. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again on Monday, December 16th with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, MJ Today Media, and to all of our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says, Become a Patron. Become a patron. It's a good thing to do. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.